Lady Charlotte Preston stood in the cold stone corridor, her wedding dress heavy on her trembling shoulders. Her fingers clutched the silk skirts as she pressed herself against the wall. She could hear them laughing in the great hall below. They were celebrating her marriage to Lord Edmund Blackwood, the Earl of Ashford. But Charlotte was not celebrating. She was running. The marriage had happened only 2 hours ago. The priest had said the words. Edmund had placed the ring on her finger without meeting her eyes. He had spoken his vows in a flat voice, like a man ordering his breakfast. Then he had walked away from her at the altar. He had not even kissed her cheek. The guests had whispered and stared. Charlotte had stood there, her face burning with shame. She was 26 years old. In society that made her an old maid. Her own mother had told her she was lucky any man would have her. Her sisters had married at 18 and 19. They were beautiful, with golden hair and rose-petal skin. Charlotte had dark hair and too many freckles. Her mother said her nose was too long. Her father said she read too many books and scared men away with her clever tongue. For 8 years, Charlotte had endured the shame of being unwanted. She had watched younger girls dance at balls while she sat with the widows. She had heard the whispers behind fans. Poor Charlotte Preston, too plain, too old, too smart for her own good. Her father had grown angry at the cost of keeping her. Her mother had grown cold with disappointment. Her sisters had grown tired of having a spinster in the family. Then Lord Edmund Blackwood had made an offer. He needed a wife. He did not care what she looked like. He did not care how old she was. He only wanted someone quiet and obedient to manage his household. Charlotte's father had accepted before she could even speak. The wedding was arranged in 3 weeks. Charlotte had tried to be grateful. She had tried to tell herself that marriage, any marriage, was better than remaining a burden to her family. But when Edmund had looked at her at the altar, she had seen the disgust in his eyes. She had seen him flinch when the priest told him to take her hand. And she had known, with terrible certainty, that she had traded one prison for another. Now she was running through the corridors of Ashford Manor, trying to find a place to hide. The wedding night loomed before her like a dark cliff. Edmund would come to her chamber. He would expect her to submit to him. The thought made her stomach twist with fear. She had seen the coldness in his face. She knew he did not want her. He would take her body because it was his right, but he would hate every moment of it. And so would she. Charlotte turned a corner and found herself in an unfamiliar wing of the house. The walls here were darker, the portraits older. She passed a suit of armor and a window with stained glass. Her heart pounded in her chest. Where could she go? There was nowhere to run. She was married now. She belonged to Edmund, whether she liked it or not. She tried a door. It opened. She slipped inside and closed it behind her. The room was dark, except for firelight from the hearth. She leaned against the door, breathing hard. Her wedding dress rustled in the silence. She closed her eyes and tried not to cry. Ladies did not cry. Ladies did not run from their duties. But Charlotte was so tired of being a lady. "You are not my brother's bride," a deep voice said from the darkness. Charlotte's eyes flew open. Her heart jumped into her throat. A man sat in a chair by the fire. He rose slowly, unfolding himself from the shadows. He was tall, much taller than Edmund. His shoulders were broad beneath his dark coat. He stepped into the firelight, and Charlotte saw his face. He was beautiful in a way that made her breath catch. Strong jaw, straight nose, dark eyes that watched her with curiosity instead of contempt. His hair was black and slightly too long, curling at his collar. He looked like the heroes in the novels Charlotte read late at night, the ones her mother said filled her head with nonsense. But there was something else in his face too. a sadness that sat heavy in his eyes, a weariness that made him look older than his years, though Charlotte guessed he was only 30 or so. This was a man who carried pain the way she did, hidden beneath a mask of composure. "I apologize," Charlotte whispered. Her voice shook. "I did not know anyone was here. I will leave." "Wait." He held up one hand. His voice was gentler now. "You are Charlotte, yes? Edmund's new bride?" She nodded, unable to speak. Shame flooded through her. What must he think of her, running away on her wedding night? "I am Nicholas Blackwood," he said. "Edmund's brother, the useless younger brother, as he often reminds me." A sad smile touched his lips. "You look terrified. Has Edmund been cruel to you already?" The kindness in his voice broke something inside Charlotte. A sob escaped her throat before she could stop it. She covered her mouth with her hand, mortified. Ladies did not sob in front of strangers. Ladies did not show weakness. But Nicholas did not look disgusted. He looked concerned. He took a step toward her, then stopped, as if afraid of frightening her more. "Forgive me," he said quietly. "That was an impertinent question. Your marriage is not my business." "He hates me," Charlotte said. The words tumbled out before she could stop them. "I saw it in his face at the altar. He could not even look at me, and now I am supposed to go to his chamber, and—" She could not finish. The tears came hard now, running down her cheeks. Nicholas was silent for a long moment. The fire crackled. Outside, Charlotte could hear music drifting up from the great hall. They would be dancing now, celebrating a marriage that was already broken. "My brother is a fool," Nicholas said finally. His voice was rough with some emotion Charlotte could not name. "Whatever he has made you feel about yourself, he is wrong. Do you hear me? He is wrong." Charlotte looked up at him through her tears. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. No one had ever defended her. Her own family blamed her for being unmarriageable. Society pitied her. But this man, this stranger, spoke as if her pain mattered. "I should not have come here," she whispered. "I should not have run. But I am so frightened." Nicholas moved then, crossing the room to stand before her. He pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and held it out. His hand was steady. His eyes were kind. "You have nothing to fear from me," he said. "You may stay here as long as you need. I will not tell anyone where you are." Charlotte took the handkerchief. Their fingers brushed. Just for a moment, she felt the warmth of his skin, the gentleness of his touch. Something shifted in her chest, a feeling she did not understand. "Why are you being kind to me?" she asked. Nicholas's smile was sad. "Because someone should be, and because I know what it feels like to be alone in a house full of people." Charlotte wiped her tears. She looked around the room properly for the first time. It was a library, she realized. Books lined every wall from floor to ceiling. A desk sat by the window, covered with papers and an inkwell. This was a room that was lived in, loved. "You like books," she said. "I do. It is my greatest failing, according to Edmund. A gentleman should hunt and gamble and manage his estates, not waste his time reading." Nicholas walked back to the fire and poked at the logs. Sparks flew up the chimney. "But books have been my only friends for a long time." "Mine too," Charlotte said softly. "My mother says they gave me unrealistic expectations. She says that is why no man wanted me." Nicholas turned to look at her. The firelight made his eyes gleam. "Any man who does not want you is a fool," he said, "including my brother." The words hung in the air between them. Charlotte felt her cheeks flush. No one had ever called her desirable before. No one had ever looked at her the way Nicholas was looking at her now, as if she was something precious. "I should go," she said. but she did not move toward the door. "Where will you go?" Nicholas asked. "To Edmund's chambers, to endure whatever awaits you there." Charlotte flinched. He was right. There was nowhere else to go. She was trapped. "Stay here tonight," Nicholas said. His voice was gentle but firm. "I will sleep elsewhere. You can lock the door. In the morning, you will face whatever comes with a clearer head." "I cannot ask you to give up your room," Charlotte protested. "You are not asking. I am offering." Nicholas moved toward the door. He paused beside her. "You deserve kindness, Charlotte. You deserve so much more than what you have been given. I hope someday you will believe that." He left before she could respond. The door closed softly behind him. Charlotte stood alone in the library, holding his handkerchief, wondering what kind of man gave up his room for a frightened bride he had just met. She locked the door as he had suggested. Then she sank into the chair by the fire, her wedding dress pooling around her. The room smelled of books and tobacco and something else, something warm and masculine that must be Nicholas's scent. It was comforting somehow. For the first time in weeks, Charlotte felt safe. She fell asleep in the chair, too exhausted to move. In her dreams, a dark-haired man with kind eyes told her she was not alone anymore. Morning came too soon. Charlotte woke with a stiff neck and wrinkled wedding dress. Sunlight streamed through the library windows. She could hear servants moving in the corridors outside. Reality crashed back over her. She was the Countess of Ashford now. She belonged to Edmund. Last night's escape had only delayed the inevitable. There was a knock at the door. Charlotte's heart leaped with fear. Was it Edmund, angry that she had not come to his chambers? Would he force her now in the cold light of morning? "Lady Charlotte?" A woman's voice, not a man's. "My lady, I am Mrs. Hartley, the housekeeper. Lord Edmund has asked me to show you to your chambers." Charlotte unlocked the door with shaking hands. Mrs. Hartley stood in the corridor, a plump woman with grey hair and a kind face. She did not look surprised to find the new countess emerging from a library in a wrinkled wedding dress. She simply curtsied and smiled. "This way, my lady. I have prepared a bath for you. You must be exhausted from yesterday's festivities." Charlotte followed her through the corridors. She wanted to ask about Edmund, about what he had said when he discovered her missing, but shame kept her silent. Mrs. Hartley led her to a beautiful suite of rooms with windows overlooking the gardens. The chambers were done in soft blues and creams, elegant and peaceful. "These are your private rooms, my lady," Mrs. Hartley said. "His lordship's chambers are in the east wing. He asked me to inform you that he will take dinner with you tonight at 8 o'clock. Charlotte's relief was so strong it made her dizzy. Separate chambers. Edmund did not expect her to share his bed every night then. Perhaps the marriage would be more bearable than she had feared. A young maid helped her out of the wedding dress and into the bath. The hot water eased her aching muscles. Charlotte closed her eyes and tried not to think about the night ahead. Edmund would still expect his rights as a husband eventually. She could not hide from him forever. She spent the day exploring her new chambers and the gardens beyond. Ashford Manor was beautiful, a sprawling estate with rolling lawns and ancient trees. Charlotte walked along a path beside a stream and felt some of the tension ease from her shoulders. If she had to live here, at least it was a beautiful prison. She did not see Nicholas anywhere. She found herself looking for him, wondering if he was avoiding her. Perhaps he regretted his kindness last night. Perhaps he thought her foolish for running away. The thought made her sad in a way she did not want to examine too closely. Dinner came too soon. Charlotte, dressed in a simple evening gown, her dark hair pinned up. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw the same plain face she had always seen. Too many freckles, nose too long, eyes too serious. No wonder Edmund had looked at her with disgust. She made her way to the dining room. Edmund was already there, standing by the window with a glass of brandy. He turned when she entered. His expression was cold. "Wife," he said. It was not a greeting, just a statement of fact. "Husband," Charlotte replied. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. They sat at opposite ends of a long table. Servants brought course after course. Charlotte barely tasted the food. Edmund ate in silence, not looking at her. The only sound was the clink of silver on china. Finally Edmund spoke. "You did not come to my chambers last night." Charlotte's hands clenched in her lap. "No, I apologize. I was unwell." "Unwell?" Edmund's voice was flat. "My brother said you were in the library, that you fell asleep reading. He said I should not disturb you." So Nicholas had lied for her. He had protected her. Charlotte's heart squeezed with gratitude. "I am sorry," she said again. "It will not happen again." Edmund took a long drink of brandy. "I did not want this marriage any more than you did," he said. "But it is done now. We both must endure it. I require an heir. You will provide one. Beyond that, I do not care what you do with your time. Stay out of my way, and I will stay out of yours." The words should have hurt. They should have made Charlotte feel small and worthless. But instead, she felt a strange sense of relief. Edmund did not want her. That meant he would not demand her company or her affection. She would be free to live her own life within the bounds of their marriage. "I understand," she said quietly. "Good." Edmund stood. "I will come to your chambers tomorrow night. After that, once a week until you are with child. Once you have given me an heir, I will not trouble you again." He left without another word. Charlotte sat alone at the long table, staring at her untouched dessert. So this was her marriage. Cold duty performed once a week. A child conceived without love. A life of separate chambers and silent meals. It was not the fairy tale she had read about in books, but it was not the nightmare she had feared either. She would survive this. She always had before. She left the dining room and wandered through the corridors. Without meaning to, she found herself outside the library where she had spent the night. Light glowed under the door. Nicholas was there. Charlotte raised her hand to knock, then stopped. What would she say? "Thank you for lying to your brother. Thank you for being kind when no one else was." How did one thank someone for seeing them as human when everyone else saw them as a burden? The door opened before she could decide. Nicholas stood there, looking surprised and pleased. "Charlotte," he said. Then, more formally, "Lady Ashford, I thought I heard someone in the corridor." "I wanted to thank you," Charlotte said. Her voice was soft. "For last night, for today, for telling Edmund I was reading." Nicholas smiled. It transformed his face, chasing away some of the sadness. "I did not lie. You were reading. You simply fell asleep while doing it. Very proper behavior for a countess." Charlotte found herself smiling back. "Still, you were kind." "I am grateful. Edmund told you his terms, I assume," Nicholas said. His smile faded. "He has all the warmth of a winter stone, my brother. I am sorry you are bound to him." "I will manage," Charlotte said. "I have managed worse." They stood in silence for a moment. The library glowed warm behind Nicholas. Charlotte could see shelves full of books, the fire burning low in the hearth. It looked like heaven. "Would you like to come in?" Nicholas asked. "I was just making tea. I find it helps me sleep." Charlotte knew she should say no. It was improper to be alone with a man who was not her husband, even if he was her brother by marriage, but she was so tired of being proper, and Nicholas's kindness was like water in a desert. "Just for a few minutes," she said. She followed him into the library. He gestured to a chair by the fire, while he poured tea from a pot on his desk. Charlotte noticed how his hands moved, careful and precise. There was gentleness in everything he did. "Sugar?" he asked. "Please, 2 lumps." He smiled. "A woman after my own heart. I take 3. He brought her a cup and sank into the chair across from her. For a while they sat in comfortable silence, sipping their tea. The fire crackled. The books watched from their shelves. It was peaceful in a way Charlotte had never experienced before. "May I ask you something?" Nicholas said finally. "Of course. Why did you agree to marry Edmund? Surely you knew what kind of man he is." Charlotte stared into her teacup. "My father gave me a choice. Marry your brother, or be sent to live with my aunt in Scotland. She is a bitter old woman who hates the world. I would have been her unpaid servant for the rest of her days. At least here I am a countess. At least I have some dignity." "Dignity," Nicholas repeated softly. "Is that truly all you hoped for? Not love or companionship or joy?" "Those things are not for women like me," Charlotte said. "I learned that long ago. I am too plain, too old, too clever. Men do not want women. They cannot control or women who are not beautiful. I am both those things." Nicholas set down his teacup. He leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. "You are none of those things," he said. "You are not plain. You have beautiful eyes, the color of honey in sunlight. Your freckles are like stars across your nose. And your mind, your cleverness, that is a gift, not a curse. Any man who cannot see that is blind." Charlotte's breath caught. No one had ever spoken to her this way. No one had ever called her beautiful. She did not know what to say. "You do not believe me," Nicholas said. He sounded sad. "Edmund has already made you doubt yourself, but I will tell you this truth until you believe it. You are worthy of love, Charlotte. You are worthy of everything good in this world." Tears pricked Charlotte's eyes. She blinked them back. "Why do you care?" she whispered. "You do not know me." "Because I see you," Nicholas said simply. "And because no one has seen me for a very long time. Perhaps we both needed someone to truly look at us." They talked until late into the night. Nicholas told her about his life at Ashford Manor, always in Edmund's shadow. Edmund was the Earl, the important one. Nicholas was just the spare, the useless younger brother. Their father had died 5 years ago, and Edmund had become harder, colder. He blamed Nicholas for their father's death, though Nicholas would not say why. Charlotte told him about her sisters, beautiful and married, about her parents, disappointed and cruel, about the years of being unwanted, of believing she had no value. "We are a fine pair," Nicholas said with a sad smile. "Both of us convinced we are worthless. Perhaps we can remind each other otherwise," Charlotte said. Something passed between them then, a moment of understanding. They were both broken people in a broken house. But together perhaps they could hold each other up. Charlotte returned to her chambers very late. Her maid was asleep in a chair, waiting for her. Charlotte sent her to bed and undressed herself. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about dark eyes and kind words. She knew she was in danger. She was falling in love with the wrong brother. The next day, Edmund came to her chambers as he had promised. Charlotte lay very still as he performed his duty. He did not kiss her. He did not speak. He simply took what he needed and left. It was over in minutes. Charlotte lay in the darkness after he was gone, feeling empty and used. This was her life now. This cold, silent coupling once a week, until she bore a child. It was what she had agreed to. It was all she deserved. But later, when she went to the library and Nicholas smiled at her, she felt warm again. She felt human. Days turned into weeks. Charlotte settled into a routine. She managed the household, speaking with Mrs. Hartley about menus and linens. She walked in the gardens every morning. She read in the library every afternoon, and every evening she had tea with Nicholas. They never spoke of what was growing between them. They pretended it was just friendship, just two lonely people finding comfort. But Charlotte saw the way Nicholas looked at her when he thought she was not watching. She felt her heart race when their hands accidentally touched as they reached for the same book. Edmund did not notice. He came to her chambers once a week, took what he needed, and left. He never asked about her days. He never joined her for meals unless guests were present. He lived his life, and she lived hers, and Nicholas was the bridge between them. Mrs. Hartley noticed, though. Charlotte saw the way the housekeeper watched her and Nicholas together, but the older woman said nothing, just smiled in a sad, knowing way. 1 month passed, then 2. Charlotte was not with child yet. Edmund grew colder, more demanding. He came to her chambers twice a week now, determined to get her pregnant. Charlotte endured it, floating away in her mind until it was over. But with Nicholas, she was alive. They talked about books and philosophy and dreams. He told her about places he wanted to travel. She told him about the stories she wanted to write. They laughed together, genuine joy that Charlotte had never experienced before. One evening, Charlotte arrived at the library to find Nicholas standing by the window, staring out at the rain. He did not turn when she entered. "Nicholas," she said softly. "What is wrong?" "You should not come here anymore," he said. His voice was rough. Charlotte's heart plummeted. "Why? Have I done something to offend you?" "No." He turned then, and she saw anguish in his face. "You have done nothing but be yourself, and that is the problem. I do not understand." Nicholas crossed the room in 3 long strides. He stopped very close to her, close enough that she could feel the heat of his body. His hands clenched at his sides, as if he was fighting not to touch her. "I am falling in love with you," he said. The words came out harsh, pained. "I am falling in love with my brother's wife. Every day I tell myself to stay away from you. Every day I fail. But if we continue like this, I will do something unforgivable. I will reach for you. I will kiss you. I will take what I have no right to take." Charlotte could barely breathe. Her whole body trembled. "Nicholas, you must hate me now," he said. "I am dishonoring you. I am dishonoring my brother, no matter how little he deserves honor, but I cannot help it. You are everything I have ever wanted and can never have." "You think I do not feel the same?" Charlotte said. Tears streamed down her face. "You think I do not lie awake at night, wishing it was your chambers I visited? You think I do not imagine what it would be like to be loved by you instead of used by Edmund?" Nicholas's control shattered. He pulled her into his arms and kissed her. It was desperate and sweet and everything Charlotte had dreamed of. His lips were gentle but demanding. His hands cradled her face like she was something precious. She kissed him back with all the loneliness and longing she had been holding inside. When they finally broke apart, they were both shaking. "We cannot do this," Nicholas said. But he did not let her go. "You are his wife." "A wife he does not want," Charlotte said. "A wife he only touches out of duty. It does not matter. You are bound to him by law and God." "And I," Nicholas closed his eyes, I am already damned for loving you, but I will not damn you too. I will not make you an adulteress." He released her and stepped back. The distance between them felt like an ocean. "Stay away from me, Charlotte," he said. "For both our sakes, find a way to be content with Edmund. Forget about me." "I could never forget you," Charlotte whispered. "Then learn to live with the memory, because we can have no future together." He left the library. Charlotte sank into a chair and sobbed. She had finally found love, real love, the kind she had read about in books, and it was forbidden. It was impossible. It would destroy everyone if they pursued it. For a week, Charlotte avoided the library. She avoided Nicholas. She threw herself into household duties, trying to exhaust herself so she would not think. But every night when Edmund came to her chambers, she closed her eyes and imagined it was Nicholas instead, and she hated herself for it. Edmund noticed her distraction. "What is wrong with you?" he demanded one night after he had finished. "You seem different." "Nothing is wrong, my lord," Charlotte said. "You are not with child yet," Edmund said. "It has been 3 months. Perhaps you are barren." The word hit Charlotte like a slap. "Perhaps you should give me more time." "Time will not fix a barren womb," Edmund said coldly, "but I will continue trying. What choice do I have? You are my wife, for better or worse, though it seems to be very much for worse." He left. Charlotte curled up in her bed, feeling more worthless than ever. Maybe Edmund was right. Maybe she was barren. Maybe she could not even give him the one thing he wanted from her. The next day, Charlotte walked in the gardens despite the cold wind. She needed air. She needed space. She walked until she reached the far edge of the estate, where a small folly stood overlooking a pond. Nicholas was there. He sat on the stone bench inside the folly, his head in his hands. He looked up when he heard her approach. For a moment, they just stared at each other. "I did not mean to disturb you," Charlotte said. "You never disturb me," Nicholas said. "You complete me, that is the problem." Charlotte sat beside him on the bench. They did not touch, but she could feel the warmth of him beside her. "Edmund says I might be barren," she said quietly. 3 months and no child. He is losing patience. Nicholas's jaw clenched. "My brother is a fool and a brute. What if he is right, though? What if I cannot give him an heir? He could set me aside, divorce me. I would be ruined. Would that be so terrible?" Nicholas asked. He turned to look at her, intensity burning in his dark eyes. "If you were free of him, if you were divorced and ruined, you could choose your own path. You could live for yourself." "A divorced woman has no place in society," Charlotte said. "I would be worse than an old maid. I would be a scandal." "You could go to the continent," Nicholas said. "To Italy or France. You could write your stories there. You could be free. Alone and poor." "Not alone." Nicholas took her hand. His touch sent warmth racing up her arm. "I would come with you. We could leave this place, leave Edmund, leave all of it behind. We could be together." Charlotte's heart soared and broke at the same time. "You would give up your family, your home, your name, all for me." "I would give up the world for you," Nicholas said simply. "These past weeks without you have been agony. I cannot do it anymore, Charlotte. I cannot pretend I do not love you. I cannot watch my brother take you to his bed and know that I am dying inside. It would cause such scandal," Charlotte whispered. But she did not pull her hand away. "Let them scandalize," Nicholas said. "Let Edmund rage and society whisper. None of it matters. The only thing that matters is this." He brought her hand to his lips and kissed it. "You and me. Finally being honest about what we feel." Charlotte looked into his eyes and saw her future, a life of love and laughter, of being truly seen and cherished. It would not be easy. They would be outcasts, but they would be together, and that would be enough. "If I am not with child by the end of the year," Charlotte said slowly, "Edmund will likely divorce me anyway. His pride will not allow a barren wife." "Then we will wait until then," Nicholas said. "But when he casts you aside, know that I will be waiting. I will always be waiting for you." They sat in the folly until the sun began to set, hands clasped, planning a future that might never come. But for those few hours, they let themselves hope. Winter came early that year. Snow blanketed Ashford Manor. Charlotte marked off each week on her private calendar. Still no child. Edmund's visits became even colder, more mechanical. He blamed her now, openly, called her useless, called her barren. Charlotte bore it all because she had hope. She had Nicholas's love, even if they could never act on it. They still met in secret, in the library or the folly or the gardens. They never did more than hold hands or steal a brief kiss. Nicholas refused to compromise her more than his love already had. "When you are free," he would say, "when you are truly mine, then we will have everything. But not before." Christmas approached. Edmund announced they would host a ball, his first since their father's death. All of society would come to see the new Countess of Ashford. Edmund made it clear that Charlotte's performance at this ball would determine her future. "If you embarrass me," he said, "if you prove yourself unfit to be my countess, I will find a way to be rid of you." Charlotte should have been terrified. Instead, she felt a strange excitement. This ball might be her chance at freedom. The night of the ball, Charlotte dressed in a gown of deep blue silk. Her maid arranged her dark hair with pearl pins. Charlotte looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked like a countess. She looked strong. She descended the stairs to find the manor blazing with candles and full of guests. Edmund stood at the base of the stairs, greeting arrivals. Nicholas stood beside him, elegant in his evening clothes. When Nicholas saw Charlotte, his eyes widened. She saw love and desire and admiration in his gaze. She saw everything Edmund had never given her. The ball was a blur of introductions and dances. Charlotte played her part perfectly. She smiled and curtsied and made polite conversation. She danced with neighboring lords and made sure to compliment their wives. She was exactly what a countess should be. Edmund watched her with suspicious eyes. He clearly expected her to fail, but Charlotte refused to give him the satisfaction. At midnight, Charlotte slipped away to the library for a moment of peace. She was exhausted from performing. She needed quiet. She needed to breathe. Nicholas found her there, as she had known he would. He closed the door behind him and leaned against it. "You are magnificent tonight," he said. "Every man in that ballroom envies Edmund, and Edmund is too much of a fool to see it." "I am tired," Charlotte said. She sank into a chair. "Tired of pretending. Tired of being someone I am not." Nicholas crossed to her and knelt beside her chair. He took her hands in his. "Soon," he said, "soon this will be over. Edmund is already making inquiries about divorce. He told me yesterday he is convinced you are barren. He plans to petition the church after Christmas." Charlotte's breath caught. "So soon?" "He wants an heir," Nicholas said. "His pride demands it. And when he sets you aside, I will be here. We will leave together, just as we planned." Charlotte cupped his face in her hands. She had been so careful for so long. But now, knowing freedom was near, she could not help herself. She kissed him, deep and loving. She poured everything she felt into that kiss, all the love she had been holding back. Nicholas kissed her back with equal passion. His arms came around her, holding her close. For a moment they forgot where they were. They forgot the world outside. The door opened. They sprang apart. Edmund stood in the doorway, his face white with fury. "So this is how my wife and my brother repay me," Edmund said. His voice was deadly quiet, rotting in my library like common animals. "Edmund," Nicholas said. He stood, putting himself between Charlotte and his brother. "This is not what you think." "Not what I think." Edmund's voice rose. "I think you have been bedding my wife behind my back. I think you have made me a cuckold. I think you both deserve to be destroyed." "I have not bedded her," Nicholas said. His voice was firm. "We have done nothing more than what you just saw. We love each other, Edmund. Truly love. Something you know nothing about." "Love?" Edmund laughed, harsh and cruel. "You dare speak to me of love? You, who betrayed me with my own wife." "You never wanted her," Nicholas said. "You made her miserable from the day you wed her. You used her and degraded her. I gave her the kindness you should have shown." "Kindness?" Edmund's hand went to his sword. "You call cuckolding me kindness?" Charlotte stood. Her hands shook, but her voice was steady. "He has not cuckolded you, Edmund. We have done nothing to consummate any feelings we have. Your honor is intact, if you care about such things." "My honor?" Edmund turned his rage on her. "You are my wife. You belong to me, and you dare love another man." "I dare," Charlotte said. Strength filled her, strength she had not known she possessed. "Because you never gave me any reason to love you. You married me out of duty. You treated me like an unwanted burden. What did you expect?" "I expected obedience," Edmund snarled. "I expected you to be grateful that I lifted you from spinsterhood. But you are just like every other woman, weak and faithless." "Then divorce me," Charlotte said. The words rang out in the silence. "You planned to do so anyway. Set me aside. Call me barren. Call me whatever you wish. But let me go." Edmund stared at her. Then he smiled, cold and cruel. "Oh no, I will not give you what you want. You think I will set you free, so you can run to my brother? You think I will allow that?" "Edmund," Nicholas said, "do not punish her for my sins. If you must direct your anger somewhere, direct it at me." "I will direct it at both of you," Edmund said. "You, brother, will leave Ashford Manor tonight. You are no longer welcome here. I am cutting off your allowance. You will have nothing but what you can earn yourself. Let us see how you manage." Nicholas's face went pale, but he did not argue. "So be it. And you, wife," Edmund continued, turning to Charlotte. "You will stay here. You will continue your duties as my countess. But you will be locked in your chambers when you are not needed for public appearances. You will never see my brother again. You will live out your days in this manner, alone and miserable, knowing that your moment of weakness cost you everything." "No," Charlotte said. "I will not stay. You cannot force me." "I can, and I will," Edmund said. "You are my wife by law. Where you go, what you do, these are mine to decide. And I decide you will stay here until you have given me an heir. I do not care if it takes years. You will do your duty." He turned on his heel and left. They heard him shouting for servants, for guards. Nicholas grabbed Charlotte's hands. "We have to run," he said urgently. "Now, before he can stop us. We can be married by morning if we reach Gretna Green. Once you are my wife, Edmund can do nothing." "I am already married," Charlotte said. Tears streamed down her face. "The law is on his side." "Then we run anyway," Nicholas said. "To the continent. Tonight. Right now. Gather nothing. Just come with me." Charlotte looked into his desperate, loving eyes. She thought about a life on the run, always looking over their shoulders. She thought about the scandal, the shame, but she also thought about a life without him, locked away in Ashford Manor, slowly dying inside. The choice was easy. "Let us go," she said. They ran, through the corridors, past startled servants, out into the snowy night. Nicholas had a horse already saddled. He must have planned this, must have hoped for a chance at escape. He lifted Charlotte onto the horse and swung up behind her. His arms came around her, holding her safe. They rode into the darkness. Behind them, they heard shouting. Edmund had discovered their flight. There would be pursuit, but for now, they were free. "I love you," Charlotte said, her words nearly lost in the wind. "I love you," Nicholas said into her ear. "I will love you until I die." They rode through the night, racing toward Scotland and freedom. The snow fell heavy, covering their tracks. Charlotte leaned back against Nicholas's chest and felt his heart beating strong and sure. They might be caught, they might be ruined, but they would be together, and that was all that mattered. They reached an inn as dawn broke. Nicholas had money enough for a room and a meal. They would have to be careful with funds until they reached Scotland, where Nicholas had friends who could help them. Charlotte removed her wet cloak and stood by the fire. She was exhausted, cold, and frightened. But she was also happier than she had ever been. Nicholas came to stand beside her. "Are you well?" he asked. "I am perfect," Charlotte said. She turned to look at him. "For the first time in my life, I am exactly where I want to be. Even though we are fugitives, even though society will shun us, even then," Charlotte said, "I choose you, Nicholas. I choose love and joy over duty and misery. I choose freedom." Nicholas pulled her into his arms. He held her close, and she felt the tension drain from his body. They had done it. They had escaped. "We should sleep," Nicholas said. "We have a long journey ahead of us." Charlotte nodded, but neither of them moved toward the bed. They stood by the fire, holding each other, not wanting to break the moment. Finally, Nicholas spoke again. "I will sleep in the chair. You take the bed. We will do this properly, Charlotte. When we marry in Scotland, I want it to be real. I want you to come to me freely, not because we were desperate and running." Charlotte's heart swelled with love. Even now, Nicholas was thinking of her honor. Even now, he was protecting her. "You are a good man," she whispered. "I try to be," Nicholas said. "For you, I will be better than I ever thought possible." They slept a few hours, then set out again. For 3 days they traveled north, staying in small inns, avoiding main roads. Nicholas watched for pursuit, but they saw no one. Either Edmund was not following, or they had too good a head start. On the 4th day they crossed the border into Scotland. Charlotte felt something release in her chest. They were almost free. They reached Gretna Green that evening. The famous marriage anvil stood in the village square. Nicholas found the blacksmith who performed marriages and paid him with the last of their money. "We are ready," Nicholas said. The blacksmith looked at them with wise old eyes. "You are running from something," he observed. "From a loveless marriage," Nicholas said. "She was forced to marry my brother, but she loves me, and I love her. We want to be together properly." The blacksmith nodded. "Love is worth running for," he said. "Let us make you man and wife." The ceremony was simple. They stood in the smithy, the fire burning hot. The blacksmith asked if they came freely to the marriage. They both said yes. He asked if they would love and honor each other. They both said yes. Then, by the power vested in me by Scottish law, I declare you husband and wife, the blacksmith said. Kiss your bride, lad. Nicholas turned to Charlotte. His eyes were bright with tears. My wife, he said. My husband, Charlotte whispered. He kissed her, sweet and deep. It was a kiss of promise, of new beginnings, of love finally allowed to flourish. Charlotte kissed him back with all her heart, all her soul. They had fought so hard for this moment, and now it was theirs. When they pulled apart, they were both crying and smiling. The blacksmith handed them a certificate. They were married now, truly and legally. Edmund could rage all he wanted. Charlotte was Nicholas's wife now. They found a small cottage to rent at the edge of the village. Nicholas had written to friends, and money would arrive soon. They would not be rich, but they would manage. They would be together. That night, they consummated their marriage. Nicholas was gentle and patient, making sure Charlotte felt safe and loved. It was nothing like her experiences with Edmund. This was beautiful, a joining of souls as well as bodies. When it was over, Charlotte lay in Nicholas's arms and knew she had finally found home. Days turned to weeks. They settled into their little cottage. Nicholas wrote to his friends on the continent. Plans were made to travel to Italy in the spring. Charlotte began writing her stories, filling page after page with words that had been trapped inside her for years. They were poor but happy. Happier than Charlotte had ever dreamed possible. She woke each morning beside the man she loved. They spent their days talking and laughing and simply being together. It was everything she had read about in books, everything she had thought was impossible for someone like her. One morning, 2 months after their flight, a messenger arrived. He carried a letter with Edmund's seal. Charlotte's hands shook as Nicholas opened it. They read together. The letter was cold and formal. Edmund acknowledged that their Scottish marriage was legal. He could not undo it. But he cursed them both. He said Nicholas was dead to him. He said Charlotte had destroyed the Blackwood name. He wished them misery and poverty. Charlotte should have felt sad. But instead she felt relief. It was over. Edmund could not touch them now. They were truly free. He cannot hurt us anymore, Nicholas said. He threw the letter into the fire and watched it burn. We are beyond his reach. We are, Charlotte agreed. She felt lighter than air. We won. That spring, they sailed for Italy. They settled in a villa outside Florence, surrounded by vineyards and olive groves. Nicholas's friends had been generous, helping them establish a new life. Nicholas began teaching English to Italian nobles. Charlotte published her first story under a pen name. They were not wealthy, not like they would have been at Ashford Manor, but they had something far more precious. They had each other. They had love. They had freedom. On their first anniversary, they stood on the terrace of their villa and watched the sunset paint the sky. Nicholas's arm was around Charlotte's waist. Charlotte's head rested on his shoulder. Do you regret it? Nicholas asked. Giving up your title, your place in society? Not for a moment, Charlotte said. She turned to look up at him. You gave me something far more valuable than a title. You gave me love. You gave me myself. You did the same for me, Nicholas said. I was lost before you. I was nothing. But with you I am everything I was meant to be. They kissed as the sun dipped below the horizon. Around them, the Italian countryside glowed in the fading light. Inside the villa, their home waited, warm and welcoming. Charlotte thought back to that terrified girl who had run from her wedding chambers. She thought about the woman who had believed she was too plain, too old, too worthless to be loved. That woman seemed like a stranger now. She had learned the truth in Nicholas's arms. She was not worthless. She was not unlovable. She was simply with the wrong people, in the wrong place, living the wrong life. Sometimes you had to run to find where you truly belonged. Sometimes you had to risk everything to gain what really mattered. And sometimes the person you were not supposed to love was exactly the person you were meant to find. "I am so glad I ran to your room that night," Charlotte said softly. Nicholas laughed, the sound rich and warm. "So am I, my love, so am I." They went inside as stars began to appear in the darkening sky. They had dinner by candlelight, talking and laughing as they did every night. Later, they went to bed and loved each other with the comfortable passion of two people who had finally found their home. Charlotte fell asleep with Nicholas's arm around her and a smile on her face. She had been a virgin bride who ran on her wedding night. She had run all the way to her real husband's arms, and she had never been happier. In England, Edmund lived alone in Ashford Manor, bitter and cold. He eventually remarried a beautiful young woman who gave him the air he wanted, but he never knew joy. He never knew real love. He lived and died surrounded by everything the world said mattered, but with nothing that actually did. Nicholas and Charlotte lived in Italy for 30 years. They had 3 children who grew up speaking Italian and English, who knew both passion and propriety. They wrote books together, traveled Europe together, grew old together. When Charlotte died at 70, peacefully in her sleep, Nicholas held her hand and told her he loved her one last time. He followed her 6 months later, his heart broken by her absence. They were buried in the Protestant cemetery in Florence, side by side under the Italian sun. Their gravestone read simply, "Nicholas and Charlotte Blackwood." They chose love. And that was the greatest triumph of all. They had been told love was not for them. They had been told they should settle for duty and appearances, but they had chosen differently. They had chosen each other. They had chosen love, and love had chosen them right back.